which can TUTH and coordinator of MMSN. We also have Dr. Sameer Basnyat and editorial of MMSN, and we also have Dr. Dr, who is the outgoing coordinator of MMSN, and we also have Suraj Shrestha and Dr Shrestha, who are the assistant editor, and this is the assistant editor from CMC. And this is the new organigram of MMSN, where we have Dr. as the president, and we have our guest Dr. Basnyat, who is the founder of MMSN, and Dr. is not able to join us today because of his busy schedule. And here we have the good news corner, and we have the application open for post-secondary health camp, and the deadline is today, which is 25th of June. Those who are interested can apply for post-secondary health camp. Where we usually do 5 doctors and a medical student. And if you are interested, you can visit the MMSN Facebook and Instagram page, as well as the Google form to get all the details of this application. And we have the good news that Sankar Kodegai, who is the second year medical student of Highland, has published his article on wilderness medicine. You can just scan the QR to get this article. And we also have started to publish our blogs over the MMSN website. If you are interested to publish your blogs of any trade or adventure, you can simply send us an MMSN email or directly DM us, so that we can publish in MMSN website. We also have the article open for MMSN newsletter for 2025. If you have any articles related to mountain medicine or any trick, you can send directly to Sameer Basnyat or the email address which is given over here. And we also have the library of journals over the MMSN website, where you can find more than 250 articles published, and we have 136 plus articles of Dr. Basnyat alone over the website. If you are interested in high altitude medicine, you can just visit the website and read the articles. This is Dr. Suraj Shrestha took this initiative to compile all the journals, and he has compiled the articles more than 230, and all the articles have been directly uploaded to Google Drive. You don't have to go to any other links or pay any subscription for reading. You can just go to the Google Drive link and directly read it. Just visit MMSN. And we also have published the journal blog presentation over the MMSN website. If you are interested, you can visit the website and start reading it. And here we have our presenter for today's journal blog, Dr. Sameer Basnyat, who is our dearest friend and an intern at TUTH, and who is also the editorial chief of MMSN. And I would like to call him upon the stage to present and start the session.
And why didn't you say that you're too humble?
Another good news that Dr. Dr and myself have been selected for Oxford elective of 8 months, and we are currently in visa process, and hopefully we will be clearing 1 to 2 months. And we are thankful to Dr. Basnyat and Kamal Sir for this initiative to send the medical student to observe the Oxford University and get the healthcare system of here, and hopefully.
So all of this, you might not have any results. You might put a MMSN website, presentation. पहिला देखि थियो
मैले MMSN वेबसाइट चाहिँ मैले हेरेको छु।
तपाईँले हेरिरहनु भएको छ अनि यो सबै अहिले पडकास्ट के अरे आर्टिकल लेख्ने कहिलेदेखि सुरु भयो?
यो चाहिँ हाम्रो ठ्याक्क हामी 3जना सिलेक्ट भइसकेपछि चाहिँ यो स्टार्ट भएको।
भेरी गुड। यो त सो अब ठाउँमा पब्लिस गर्नु त गाह्रो भयो भने यहाँबाट त प्र्याक्टिस हुन्छ नि होइन आफ्नै वेबसाइटमा राख्ने एक्सलेन्ट। तपाईँ समीर र Leon. Very good. So you started all this stuff on your website, not podcast and something like Tukila, Pistol. I think this is great. Very good. So please, all medical students, that's my key role, anything to relate it to the mountains would be good. And we live in the Himalayas. You can write anything, actually. But like if you have anything in the mountains at all here, it doesn't have to be Mount Everest. What the Mount Everest like Nagarjuna parents, you went here, like you fell, like 1 or 2 paragraphs. It doesn't have to be a 1,500 word brilliant essay. A simple prayer. I went for a walk today and I felt very peaceful. This was the whole idea, I guess. So this was a main prompt and this is wonderful that you guys are doing this so as to tie up problems. You basically make me like blossoms. No, it's not but at least you tried something. I know, that's what it happened. So because they didn't answer the so who else? Maybe someone else is also writing. I don't know. Maybe will come up like soon as okay, sorry. Very good.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ranjit, for this opportunity. Thank you, Professor Dr. Basnyat, and all my friends, colleagues, and my juniors present today. So, on today's MMSN journal club, the topic is combined integrative ventilatory and renal acid-based acclimatization in Lowlanders and Tibetan Highlanders during ascent to 4,300 meters. First of all, I like to say that this journal club was supposed to happen 2 weeks back, but because of the training session at HRA, it was postponed to last week. But because of my health issues last week, it is happening today. So I'm extremely sorry for all of those who were excited for today's journal club. So introduction of the article. There are more So there are more than 14 million people all over the world who live above 3,500 meters, and 5 million people live around the Tibetan Highland. So Tibetan Highland means the area around the Himalayas, in the Himalayas of Nepal as well as India, Bhutan, Pakistan, and as well as in the Tibetan area of China. In high altitude, there is low partial pressure of oxygen, and among the 9 million people, not everyone live in the Tibetan Highland. There are still other places such as Andean Highland in South America and Ethiopian Highland in Africa, where people live above 3,500 meters. So physiological challenges, there are a set of challenges that occur at altitude. That is because of the less partial pressure of oxygen in the atmosphere, the hypoxia is induced in our body system, which leads to hyperventilation. We tend to breathe more, and the body must compensate to restore the acid-base balance. And incomplete compensation increases the risk of AMS, that is acute morbid sickness, and other dysfunctions. So the mechanism of high altitude adaptation. So when there is less partial pressure of oxygen in the atmosphere, there is hypoxia in our body, and which leads to, because of hypoxia, we tend to hyperventilate. It means that we tend to breathe more and breathe more in and breathe more out. which causes increase in oxygen level in our blood. But it increases the oxygen level in our blood, but simultaneously there is CO2 also. As we know that CO2 is weak acid, and we hyperventilate, and CO2 it causes respiratory alkalosis. The pH of our blood tends to increase, and there is renal compensation that comes into action after that, in which there is kidney excrete the bicarbonate, which is excess base in our body, so that it can compensate the alkalosis, and it causes metabolic acidosis in our blood. And in Tibetan Highlanders, it is believed that they are present in the highlands for over 10,000 of years, and they are adapted in such a way that they are more superior in this renal compensation mechanism than compared to our. So this study is why is this study chosen? Because it has unique design. There is head-to-head comparison between the LS stands for Lowlanders and T stands for Tibetan Highlanders. So it is head-to-head comparison between the Lowlanders and Tibetan Highlanders, giving the same ascent profile. I will be talking about the ascent profile in the later slides. And the relevance is directly applies to physiology, acclimatization, and how the Tibetan Highlander, that is most commonly Sherpas in our country, are adapted to this altitude. And new insights that highlights the underappreciated role of renal compensation in high altitude adaptation. So the objective of this article is to compare the ventilatory and renal acclimatization in Lowlanders and Tibetan Highlanders. And the study changes during incremental ascent from 1400 meters to 4300 meters. The 1400 meters here is the Kathmandu Valley. So the participants were taken to ferry jet that is at 4,300 meters over 8 to 9 days. It was to determine that the objective of the study was to determine if Tibetan Highlanders, they compensate better or they compensate faster, and whether it affects the blood pH stability. So the type of study is this is a prospective cohort study, prospective observational cohort study with same ascent profile over 8 to 9 days. And the participants and groups in Lowlanders, there were a total of 15 Lowlanders. 8 of them were females, with age 22.4 years plus minus 3 and BMI of 25. Whereas the Tibetan Highlanders, there were a total of 14 participants, and 7 of them were females. Now the age was 22.9 plus minus 4.5 years, and BMI was 22.3. And the Lowlanders, all of the Lowlanders were born and raised below 1400 meters, and most of them were from the sea level, because they were participant of the research, and they were they were participant of the research, and they were the cohort in this study. And the Tibetan Highlanders were born and raised above 2500 meters, but some of them were born in Kathmandu Valley, but because of their ancestry, because Tibetan Highlander doesn't mean that if I go to high altitude above 3500 meters and my next generation will be counted as Tibetan Highlander. No, they are not counted such way. It should be of ancestry, Tibetan ancestry. And age and sex were matched in this study, and all the participants were unacclimatized in the baseline, because when if a person is exposed to high altitude, then because of the exposure, they tends to develop acclimatization in the patient, in the participant. And if such person are taken in this study, and then when they are taken to 4,300 meters, then because of the recent exposure, the values may change and the studies may differ. So the parameters were measured at 1400 meters, that was baseline, this is in Kathmandu, and 4,300 meters in Fiji. Partial PCO2, pH, bicarbonate, base excess, SPO2, and a new term, steady state reflex time was used as parameters. And capillary blood gas analysis was used in this case, not arterial blood gas analysis. So we'll be talking about the drawbacks in this study about the capillary blood gas analysis as well. So the results. In both of the patients, because of the hypoxia, there was increase in ventilation and there was decrease in partial pressure of carbon dioxide because of washout of CO2. But in case of Tibetan Highlander, that is, there was PCO2 was significantly lower in case of Tibetan Highlanders as compared to Lowlanders, and there was higher alveolar ventilation in case of Tibetan Highlanders, and steady state GMO reflex drive was also higher in case of Tibetan Highlanders. So what is basically SSCD? SSCD means how much your body is sensitive to hypoxia. So if you have got higher SSCD value, it means that in case of hypoxia, you will ventilate more, and so you ventilate more, you will wash out more carbon dioxide, along with you will also inject more oxygen. So this is present in Tibetan Highlanders. So this was not so much. So this level was higher in case of Tibetan Highlanders as compared to Lowlanders. And another is renal compensation. In Lowlanders, there was decrease in bicarbonate. It was obvious that the kidney tends to metabolic acidosis, acidify the blood. But also in case of Tibetan Highlanders, bicarbonate was decreased, but it was more significant in Tibetan Highlanders. So if you compare the value of bicarbonate is much more lower in case of Tibetan Highlanders, so it is full compensation. Whereas in Lowlanders, it is just partial compensation. And if you look at the pH of both of the participants, then pH is slightly in alkaline side in case of Lowlanders, whereas pH is neutral or normal in case of Tibetan Highlanders. So there is another term called renal reactivity, which is greater obviously in Tibetan Highlanders. So what does renal reactivity means, or pH compensation? It means how much does your bicarbonate, how much is there difference in bicarbonate or difference in PCO2. So if there is PCO2 decrease, then definitely you will have to flush out of, you need to excrete bicarbonate as well. So renal reactivity is more in case of TS. It means the bicarbonate was excreted more in case of Tibetan Highlanders, whereas in Lowlanders it was less. So this is the Davenport diagram. In x-axis we can see there is pH value, whereas in y-axis there is bicarbonate level. So this was in day 0, that is in 1400 meters, and that's in 4300 meters, that is 8 to 9 days. So we can see in the red one is the Tibetan Highlanders, whereas blue one is Lowlanders. In baseline, in day 0, when all the patients, all the participants were in Kathmandu, the pH is in between 7.35 to 7.45, which is normal in range. And the bicarbonate is also in normal range between 20 to 28, although 22 to 26 is the normal value of bicarbonate. But when when the participant has reached to 4,300 meters, the red ones, the Tibetan Highlanders, they have significantly decreased in bicarbonate, as I said, renal reactivity. And the bicarbonate value is even less than 20, whereas the normal value is between 22 to 26. This is the compensation of renal compensation done in case of Tibetan Highlanders. Whereas in case of Lowlanders, we can see the pH of some of the participants is greater than 7.45. That is, it's more in the alkaline side. So there is less compensation in case of those patients and those participants. So interpretation. So Tibetan Highlander, there is stronger renal compensation, and they are likely it is due to genetic, like EPS1 gene and EZNN1 gene, and it is all to maintain the acid-base homeostasis, which is better in case of Highlanders. So the implication of the study is kidneys is the key adaptation organ, and Lowlanders have higher risk of alkalosis, which also which implicates that they have higher risk of getting acute mountain sickness. And the relevancies of this study is pre-acclimatization, high altitude travel safety, and evolutionary biology. The strength of this study is that it uses same ascent profile, and there is clean comparison. In day 0, all the participants are in Kathmandu. Actually, the participants are, and some of them are from sea level also. So when they arrive at Kathmandu, for 3 days, nothing was done to the participants, and only after 3 days, day 0 was counted, and the blood sample was taken in those participants, and was compared, and the parameters were measured. And then after that, all of the participants, all the Lowlanders and Highlanders were taken to 28,000 meters high helicopter in day 0. And in 5 days, they reached 4,300 meters, that is in free region. And between that, in day 3, they had a resting day for acclimatization. And after reaching 4,300 meters, they were not, the blood parameters was not measured instantly. They were given time to acclimatize even the lowlanders for about 5 days. So the ascent profile has now gone to, at last it has come to 8 to 9 days. And age and sex was matched in this case, and it's real setting, and there is comprehensive blood gas scale. So the limitation of the study is that capillary blood was used instead of arterial, although in some studies it has shown that we can use capillary, the parameters measured in case of capillary blood and arterial blood is same if we measure bicarbonate, if we measure pH, if we measure hydrogen ion. But in case of SpO2, the arterial blood, PO2, partial pressure of oxygen, arterial blood should be used, not capillary. So that is one of the limitations in this study. And all this possible Tibetan Highlander development exposure, because as they were born and raised in Tibetan Highland in high altitude, when they were developing, they may have been exposed to chronic hypoxia, and so during the development, they were adapted or developed in such a way that they are adapted in high altitude. So that is also one of the factors which may alter the parameters. And there is no control for dietary factors. So all the participants, there were no restriction to diet, and there was no limit to hydration. It means that they were not said that you need to drink this much of water. There was no such things, and there was no control for physical activity. And so also another limitation is single high altitude endpoint. After leaving Kathmandu, they were taken to 4,300 meters, and the endpoint was 4,300 meters. They were not taken above that. So it was just a single high altitude, and there may be also a question that what can happen above the 4,300 meters. So this was the limitation of the study. Another limitation is very short-term design study, only 8 to 9 days. So even in case of lowlanders, 8 to 9 days may not be sufficient for renal adaptation to high altitude. So conclusion of all three Tibetan Highlanders have strong and earlier renal compensation, which enables stable pH at altitude. And it also suggests that renal function is under evolutionary selection in high altitude population. And acclimatization is not just ventilatory, but its renal physiology is also critical. We tend to think that only acclimatization was ventilatory, right? So it's not the case. In this study, we get to know that renal physiology is as much important as ventilation. So the problem and concerns of the study is external validity. So finding applies to Tibetan Highlands. As I have mentioned earlier, only 5 million people among the 14 million people who live in Highland live in the Tibetan Highland area. So it is unclear if it is same in case of Indian or Ethiopian population. And there is no long-term follow-up. So unsure if you can just persist with prolonged exposure. Because this study was carried out only for 8 to 9 days. So there is no long-term follow-up of the patient. If the lowlanders have stayed in 4,300, the participant would develop acclimatization. And the sample size is modest, so acceptable for high altitude field study.
Why is it acceptable for high
Inclusion criteria for participants.
high altitude by altitude sample size means
So inclusion criteria means
statistically speaking, the size of the samples are all that answer. The high altitude not on the water. Science is science. Right? I don't think you can get away with that.
Of this study, paper was in thinly showed that renal mechanisms are central to high altitude adaptation. And Highlanders outperform lowlanders not just in nutrition but also in contiguous homeostasis. And it also suggests new research such as renal physiology, genetic markers, and EMS risk prediction. And the study is highly relevant to high altitude research and mountaineering medicine. So it's a representation of the study. So this is high quality design. The field is relevant with strong implications, and you have to provide quantitative evidence of adaptation beyond just oxygen saturation. So it introduces practical metrics, new norms of renal activity, pH compensation for future studies, and also SSC, the steady state chemoreflex, which I have already mentioned earlier. And these are the similar and related articles related to the one that are presented. And this is the article which I found in our MMSN journal website. And Professor Dr. Basnyat is one of the author of this. These are a few of the studies. Any queries?
Please ask questions.
Changing the bicarbonate is a ratio between the changing bicarbonate and changing TCO. So, as I already mentioned, first of all, the mechanism that physiology that happens in the attributes, there is an increase in TCO, decrease in TCO, right? Because we get and we carbon dioxide was up and CO2 decreases. So, renal activity means TCO2 decreases and there is respiratory alkalosis. So to balance that, to balance the pH, we need metabolic acid. Right? So there should also be changed in bicarbonate for that. And renal activity measures how much does the bicarbonate change with respect to change in tissue. And it is calculated in terms of percentage in study.
सबै क्लाइम्बरहरू चाहिँ फर्स्ट टाइम क्लाइम्ब गर्दै थिए कि पहिला पनि गफवाला थिए
त्यो चाहिँ स्टडीमा मेन्सन गरेको छैन तर 1400 लोल्यान्डर्स चाहिँ को चाहिँ कस्तो छ भन्दा यो चाहिँ त्यही रिसर्चमै आफ्नो टिमबाट मेम्बरहरू छानेको छ
अनि त्यो जुन क्लाइम्बर्सहरू चाहिँ दे आर नट एक्चुअली क्लाइम्बर्स दे आर सेटर्स अनि त्यसपछि दे आर बर्निङ दैट एसिड टु दे आर बीन at enough time in Kathmandu or they were like 1 or 2 years भएर किनभने acclimatization चाहिँ भएको छैन
त्यसमा पनि एउटा पार्टिसिपेन्ट राइडरवाला पार्टिसिपेन्ट चाहिँ 6 महिना अगाडिसम्म हि वाज अबाउट 3500 मिटर तर 6 महिना अगाडि नै काठमाडौँ आएको कारणले हि वाज इन्क्लुडेड एज टिबेटन एज अनएक्लिमेटाइज पार्टिसिपेन्ट भनेर चाहिँ त्यसरी इन्क्लुड गरेको छ तर अब हेर्ने हो भने त हिजो चाहिँ एक्लिमेटाइज तर 6 महिनाको ग्याप कारणले गर्दा चाहिँ एक्सर्साइज अनि यो चाहिँ सबै अनएक्लिमेटाइज पेसेन्टहरू हो अनि यहाँ चाहिँ त्यो सबै एक्सर्साइजहरू युज चाहिँ गरेको छैन त्यसमा चाहिँ अब एक्स्ट्रा इज नट एनी
जस्तो यो 4300 मा जति टिबेटन हाइल्यान्डर्स गर्छ नि तिनीहरू 4300 मिटर के थिए कि त्योभन्दा माथिमा पनि अलरेडी एक्लामाटाइज भइसकेका थिए अनि उनीहरू सपोज 4300 मा एक्लामाटाइज छन् भने त्यो अल्टिट्युडभन्दा माथि जाँदा चाहिँ अब त्यो टिबेटियन हाइल्यान्डरहरूको पनि जुन एक्लामाटाइजेसन क्यापासिटी हुन्छ नि त्यसमा कुनै एउटा सिलिङ हुन्छ कि पछि गएर लोल्यान्डर र हाइल्यान्डर त्योभन्दा माथि बराबरै हुन सक्ने कि त्योभन्दा माथि कुनै टिबेटियन्सहरू नै आइरहेको हुन्छ
त्यो चाहिँ स्टडीको लिमिटेसन पनि भयो अहिले गरेको क्वेसन चाहिँ अब मेरो लिमिटेसन मैले दिइराखेको 4300 भन्दा माथि चाहिँ के हुन्छ भनेर लिमिटेसन थियो नि त यसमा चाहिँ के छ एउटा भन्दाखेरि त्यो एसएससिटी जुन राइड छ नि त्यो चाहिँ 33 35 सम्म छ त्योसम्म चाहिँ अलिकति केसमा बढेको जस्तो छ इन केस अफ हाइल्यान्डर तर त्यसपछि चाहिँ 30 फेज भन्दा भनेपछि 4300 मिटर भन्दा पछि
है के जुन अगाडि हजुरले स्टडीमा देखाउनु भयो कि हामी लोल्यान्डर्सहरूकै अब कुरा गर्दा हामी नै कुरा गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ हाई एल्टिट्युडमा गयो भने फास्टर रेस्पिरेसन गर्छौँ CO2 एलिमिनेसन हुन्छ अनि त्यो हामीलाई प्रब्लम हुन्छ त्यो प्रब्लम भएर हामी डेक्जात दिन्छौँ भनेर जुन के भन्छ डेक्जात दियौँ अथवा एस्ट्राजोलामाइडतिर बाइकार्बोनेट एलिमिनेसन गर्छौँ हामीलाई चाहिँ प्रब्लम भयो तर फेरि हजुरको स्टडीमा के लेख्नु भएको छ भन्दाखेरि त्यहाँ हाइल्यान्डर्सहरूको कम्पेरिजनमा गर्ने हो भने टिबेटन हाइल्यान्डर्सहरूमा चाहिँ उनीहरूमा चाहिँ झन् अझ फास्ट रेस्पिरेसन हुन्छ उनीहरूमा CO2 एलिमिनेसन झन् धेरै हुन्छ अनि त्यो हेर्दाखेरि त हामीभन्दा पनि उनीहरू झन् अझ ऊ हुनु पऱ्यो होइन त्यसमा
त्यही त हामीले चाहिँ के सोचेको छौँ भन्दाखेरि एक्लिमेटाइजेसन भनेको जस्ट भेन्टिलेटेड रेस्पोन्स जस्तो सोच्छौँ क्या, तर त्यो होइन त होइन। यो स्टडीबाट हामीले के थाहा पायौँ भन्दाखेरि रिनल एडाप्टेसन पनि अझ बढी इम्पोर्टेन्ट रहेछ। हामीभन्दा बढी CO2 वास्तवमा उनीहरूको भएको छ है, त्यो भनेको त पिएच झन् बढ्नुपर्ने पिएच बढ्नुपर्ने, तर उनीहरूको एनर्जी युज झन् बढी एक्टिभ भयो।
रिनल मेकानिजम
बाइकार्बोनेट चाहिँ यति धेरै इलिमेट भयो कि पिएच लेभल भयो, उनीहरूको रिएक्टिभिटी रिनल एक्टिभिटी चाहिँ बढ्छ।
मैले जस्तो कि अब हामीले हाम्रो कुरा गर्ने हो भने अब हामी हाई अल्टिट्युडमा गयो भने फास्टर रेस्पिरेसन हुन्छ हाम्रो। फास्टर रेस्पिरेसन भएपछि के अरे CO2 एलिमिनेट भयो। CO2 एलिमिनेट भइसकेपछि त हामीलाई त अब एस्ट्रोजोलामाइड चाहियो नि त, किन भन्दाखेरि त बाइकार्बोनेट बढ्छ, हामीलाई त प्रब्लम छ नि त। तर हामीभन्दा पनि बढी CO2 एलिमिनेसन त हाइल्यान्डरको देखाउनु भयो स्टडी अनुसार त। अनि उनीहरूको त झन् के भन्छ हामीसँग जति पिएच थियो हाम्रो पिएच जति बढेको त्योभन्दा पनि धेरै बढ्नुपर्ने थियो नि त। त्यो चाहिँ नबढ्नुको कारण के भन्नु बुझ्न खोजेको?
This is very pure basic science, okay? Like so, this is very interesting. Yeah. So, तपाईँले त्यो मैले एन्सर दिने हो भने तपाईँलाई यहाँ कुरा के आयो त भनेको त्यो pH छ नि pH है. So carotid bodyले, so you have to go back to your basic science physiology. Carotid bodyले hypoxia sense गर्छ हैन. त्यो सेन्स गरेर सेन्ट्रल रेस्पिरेटरी सेन्टरमा मेसेज पठाउँछ हाइपरभेन्टिलेसन गर्नुहोस् भनेर, जसले मेसेज पठाउँछ डायफ्राममा, ओके. अनि हाइपरभेन्टिलेसन हुन्छ होइन. हाइपरभेन्टिलेसन त भयो, हाइपरभेन्टिलेसनको साथसाथै PCO2 फालिन्छ है, तपाईँले CO2 फालिन्छ. CO2 फालिन्छ र यसको भनाइको मतलब के हुन्छ त भनेको त्यो हाइड्रोजन आयन कम हुन्छ कि, हाइड्रोजन आयन कम भएर त्यो बाइकार्बोनेटको चाहिँ नि राज्य हुन्छ भनेर मैले त्यो. सो आफ्टर 2 or 3 days अहिले हाइपरभेन्टिलेसन भयो. सो इफ यु लुक एट युर रिनल फिजियोलोजी आफ्टर 2 or 3 days बाइकार्बोनेटेड एक्सक्रिसन हुन्छ राइट. त्यो सबैमा त्यो कुरा चाहिँ नि सबैलाई त्यो बेसिक फिजियोलोजीमा छ कि 2-3 days पछि बाइकार्बोनेट जान्छ, जसले गर्दाखेरि के हुन्छ त त्यो pH जुन यहाँ देखाइरहेको छ pH tends to be normal. When the pH is alkalotic, it puts a brake on the respiratory center. So यो कुरा चाहिँ तपाईले बुझिदिनु पर्यो कि alkalemia हुँदाखेरि unlike acidemia or acidosis, like diabetes acidosis, why do people why they are because the respiratory center is bathed by acidic milieu. So यसमा चाहिँ त alkaline milieu भइरहेछ किन. सो यहाँ त के रहेछ भने शेर्पाहरूको किडनीजले त अगाडि नै बाइकार्बोनेट एक्सक्रिट गर्ने रहेछ. यो स्टडीको अर्को एउटा लिमिटेसन छ, मैले राम्रोसँग हेरेको छैन, तर त्यो उहाँहरूले युरिनको बाइकार्बोनेट नाप्नु भएन नि, नाप्नु हो. सो युरिन बाइकार्बोनेट हेरे भए मेबी शेर्पाहरूको युरिनरी बाइकार्बोनेट वुड बी हायर, सो देयरफोर हाइड्रोजन आयन वुड बी मोर एन्ड इट वुड not let that alkali त्यो हो कुरा कि. You see, alkali चाहिँ नि बढ्दा हुनासाथ ब्रेक लाग्छ.
भनेपछि यसरी बुझ्दा भयो सर, हामीमा चाहिँ केही समय लाग्यो त्यो बाइकार्बोनेट एक्सिडेन्ट हुनलाई भने उनीहरूमा चाहिँ मेकानिजम पहिले नै स्टार्ट भइसक्यो.
डायमक्स खा जस्तो भएछ.
ओके.
त्यो डायमक्सले के गर्यो बाइकार्बोनेट डायुरिसिस गर्यो के है, काम गर्ने त त्यहीबाट बाइकार्बोनेट डायुरिसिसले गर्दाखेरि जुन तपाईँले भने जस्तै जुन काम 3 दिन लाग्थ्यो तत्काल हुने भयो. सो सायद उहाँको दिस वान वे अफ लुकिङ एट इट, त्यतातिर गएर. सो यहाँ कुरा के आयो भने मलाई यो मान्छेहरूको चोइसमा एकदम त्यो जुन टिबेटन हाइल्यान्डर भनेर उहाँहरूले छान्नुपर्ने है, त्यो मान्छे चाहिँ नि कहिले त्यो क्लियरली लेख्नु भएको छ भने त त्यो उहाँ चाहिँ नि हातसालै माथिबाट तल आएर एउटा जब पाइयो भनेर लाग्नु भएको हो.
6 महिनाको लागि चाहिँ
त्यो राखेर है. अनि उहाँको त्यो PCO2 यहाँ उसमा चेक गर्दाखेरि पनि काठमाडौँमा पनि त त्यो त्यो उहाँहरूको पिसिओ2 यो लोल्यान्डर्सहरूसँग उस्तै थियो हो त्यो उहाँहरूले कम थिएन त्यो हालसालै गएको मान्छेको त्यो एक्लिमेटाइज भएको मान्छेको त अलि हुन्छ त्यस्तो थिएन है so your choice of those people is going to be very important त्यसरी त्यो ट्रेकिङ गइराखेको मान्छेलाई स्वार्थ राख्दैन होइन त्यो त एउटा शेर्पा टोली गरेर ल्याउँ त 5-7 जना भन्यो तर ऊ भर्खर ट्रेकिङबाट फर्किराखेको छ है किनभने त्यो गाई विश्वले चाहिँ त्यो त्यस्तो त अशुद्ध त भएको छैन
सर उसमा मेन्सन गरेको छ इन्क्लुजन क्राइटेरियामा चाहिँ त्यही एक्सपेडिसन कम्पनीलाई भनेर उहाँहरूले नै मान्छे लिएको
So this is where my little thing is. Expedition गइरहेको मान्छेले अब त्यो विदेशी रिसर्च कसरी पत्ता लगाउने यो काम छ छैन के गरेका छ होइन अब त्यही ग्रुप त्यही समूहबाट लिनु भएको छ I don't know मैले भन्नु खोजेँ दिस इज भेरी इन्ट्रेस्टिङ So you, I mean, you know, the interesting sort of, many years ago, we had looked at urine. We could have like absolute sales, bicarbonate, or what is dehydration, bicarbonate, so Suraj compiled the paper samples, bicarbonate diabetes of higher and there was lesser bicarbonate, there was more bicarbonate, there was more like bicarbonate in the blood if you were dehydrated. So dehydration probably there were number one function of the kidney is to conserve fluids. Conserve fluids because of bicarbonate to diuresis and you are more predisposed to ALS the hypothesize that dehydration but the only way the kidney can excrete bicarbonate is by diuresis. The hydrogen diuresis after 2-3 days. So the kidney given a choice of do we diurese or for acclimatization or do we help the patient for a dehydrated patient? Pani khao bhanne hamro huन्थ्यो के 2-3 लिटर खानुपर्छ पानी नै खास छैन भनेको डिहाइड्रेटेड भयो भने त किडनीको नम्बर 1 कार्यक्रम के हुन्छ भने यो कन्जर्भ गरेर फ्लुइड्स भनेर अनि बाइकार्बोनेट पनि जान सकेन भनेर हामीले पनि यसरी यस्तो किसिमबाट सोचेको थियौँ के एन्ड बाइकार्बोनेट हामीले चेक गर्यौँ एन्ड lo and behold those who were dehydrated they had more bicarbonate and they had more AMS. Anyway, so it's interesting physiology for so त्यो भयो सो मलाई चाहिँ अरू के लागेको थियो भन्नु सो त्यो एउटा कुरा हो त्यो एक्ज्याक्टली त्यो एक्सपेडिसनको त्यो हाउ यसमा चाहिँ बिकम्स दिस इज की टु द होल थिङ त्यो माथि तल गरिरहेको मान्छेलाई फेरि पठाइदिएपछि इज गोइङ टु बी होइन प्लिज आई डोन्ट नो त्यो सो त्यो हो एउटा लिमिटेसन अनि अर्को चाहिँ नि अर्को चाहिँ के भनेको अर्को चाहिँ सो दिस इज नाइस यो यस्तो किसिमको हाम्रो यसको उद्देश्य नै यो जर्नल क्लबको खण्डन गर्ने के नट सेङ आहा ल कस्तो राम्रो चिज तिमीले भन्नुभयो भनेर यो त राम्रो उसमा भएछ जस्ट स्टार्ट थिङ्किङ हाउ इज दिस पोसिबल मेबी दिस इज नट पोसिबल दिस माइट बी द राइट एन्सर यसरी चाहिँ नि हाम्रो क्रिटिकल थिङ्किङलाई हामीले प्रोत्साहन दिनको लागि यो गरेर यो त राम्रो चरणबाट proceedings of something होइन कि गुड चरण त्यसमा गयो अब हामी त हिकै गरिखानेहरू होइन यहाँ यस्तो भएछ यो त लुक्स लाइक कस्तो राम्रो छ कति यो स्टडी इज लाइक लट अफ बेसिक साइन्स सो रेस्पिरेटरी फिजियोलोजीको राम्रोसित बुझ्न सक्ने बुझ्नु पर्यो यो आर्टिकलमा पनि छ सो आई थिङ्क यो सबैको सम्झिराख्नुको लागि के बिकज माउन्टेन्स आर हियर हामीले यस्तो जर्नल क्लब गरेका छौँ माउन्टेन मेडिसिनको एन्ड दिस इज अ भेरी के अरे रेलेभेन्ट आर्टिकल त्यो कुरालाई लिएर So everyone look out this thing. So के हो यो कसरी चाहिँ acclimatization को के process के हो त भनेर त हामीलाई every शब्द थाहा हुनु पर्यो हैन acclimatization को के हो यो जुन किडनीको कुरा आयो यहाँ त एकदम चाहिँ प्रत्यक्ष रूपमा आयो के यो त शेर्पाहरूको किडनी त एकदम पुरै छ लाइक चल्दो बल्दो compared to हामीहरूको किडनी is lagging behind. So this is all true. So a bigger sample size, ensuring that these guys are really not like some Sherpa should do this stuff. That's my alimenti part. Not Hassan, but I think this is a great story. I know these guys. You can make very nice people. That's great story. Last guy. Trevor gave nice guy. Matiram Hum Matiram last one recently last 16. So 3 sitting on different universities.